probably in a Post-it note or a browser, saved browser link, right? It's everywhere. What coaches do is they have one central document for everything. It's their playbook. And then they create that play sheet each week to help them quickly recall and apply the right thing. So the simple steps here is create a play sheet, right? Use it and review how you did it. And that's really it. So we don't go into too many. There's basically 10 full steps, but they are very, very simple.
Are you tired of working more for less profits in your home service business? What if I could show you $100,000 in hidden annual profits in your business in less than 3 minutes? Would you be interested? And not only show you where, but how to create that 100K in 6 months or less without additional advertising or marketing spend guaranteed. Just go to sharpenthespearcoaching.com to see how truly simple it is. That's sharpenthespearcoaching.com. Do it now. And we are back on STS Sharpen the Spear podcast with another incredible guest. I've got Brian Hurtak with us, and we are going to have an amazing conversation because that's what we do here. So Brian, as we always do, it's a tradition. No one knows Brian as well as Brian. So Brian, give us the backstory, bring us up to speed, and let's get into this.
Yeah, Richard, thanks for having me on. You know, I live here in San Antonio, Texas. I am just your typical guy. I'm a father of two and a Fortune 100 executive struggling to get better in his personal and professional day. So for years, I try to get better. And in January, I published my first book on the topic called The Play Sheet, a simple resource for overloaded professionals, where I studied the process of what coaches, football coaches in particular, do across the country so they actually can execute more effectively in their day-to-day. So yeah, here in San Antonio, just trying to get better and excited to talk to you today.
Well, it's great to have you, man. I'm looking forward to the conversation. So oftentimes, as you've probably put in your book, which I have not read, full transparency, okay, because I'm still waiting for it to show up in the mail. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll send it to you right after this show. You
yes,
got one right here.
I'll exchange you. I'll give you my audio version of mine. You'll have it instantly, just to one up you. Just to one up you. So I'll beat you to it. But I often use the sports analogy with the comparison with business, right? There's a lot of similarities in those two worlds. And I like when people are able to put it together coherently, right? And we use it for coaching. We use it for, operations. We use it for a lot of different things. So I'd love to kind of dig in that a little bit. Let's talk about your book and kind of get into it.
Yeah. So, I mean, like any professional or personal scenario, I was just voraciously learning, trying to improve, whether it was time management, communication, parenting, you name it. So I'd read every podcast. I had listened to every audiobook, right? I was reading every book. I had mentors. And what I was really struggling with was creating information overload. And I couldn't actually translate what I was learning and actually apply it in those moments of my professional day or my personal day. I was reacting all day, not really intentionally putting it into focus. And I remember the day I was sitting on my couch, my kids' toys were scattered. It was a Sunday. I was preparing for my work week ahead, trying to organize my calendar. And I was already overwhelmed, already anxious and stressed, and the work week hadn't even started. And in the corner of my eye, there was a football game on TV. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. I saw a football coach on the sideline with one of these. He had it covered his face, and it was a play sheet. Now, I'm a football fan. Not everybody is. But it hit me. Every single coach at every single level in football uses this to distill tons of information so they can quickly organize, recall, and apply a very specific play based on the situation they're facing that very moment. And they're doing that. Think about it. They're doing when the crowd is loud. They're on the road. The clock is ticking down, really just driving a lot of stress to them. But they're able to quickly, within seconds, recall a play, run it into the huddle or call it into the huddle and let their teams execute it. And they do this really, really well. And it made me think, why is every single football coach using this tool? And why am I not using it in my personal and professional life? So bottom line, I went on about a 2-year study of over 50 plus coaches at every level. I learned what they did, and I learned a broader framework that applies that they do. It's a 4-step process we talk in the book, and I can share a little bit more here as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So as long as okay, so I love the whole concept, right? You know what I don't like? Nothing you're doing here. Just in the general thing about this is a thing about coaches, okay? And it's not actually about the coaches. It's about those wonderful people in the bleachers and at home and if the game is on Sunday and then Monday. I love hearing all these people telling the coach what they should have done and why they're terrible and why they're just these raving experts. Okay. And they're wearing a jersey with some other man's name on the back of it, walking around. And I'm just like, who you kidding? That's the literal armchair quarterback and stuff
Absolutely.
that we see all the time. So I'm just putting that out there because I just get to vent my own little frustration with it all, because they don't understand those
Richard,
shoes that a man's standing in.
Yeah, the best part of this process was, I've been a corporate executive in large financial institutions for almost 20 years. I was a golfer at one stage of my life, but I got to see a whole world of coaches and what they do behind the scenes, day in and day out, and the simple, repeatable processes and how they are developing young men in their locker rooms and the coaching staffs that are, at certain stages of their career. And it was such a great culture, such a great learning experience. And yeah, people have good days, they have bad days, they make good calls, they make bad calls, but it's not easy. But you know what? What they do all consistently is they have a simple, repeatable process of how they try to make the right call. And sometimes, they get outsmarted. Sometimes they don't. But that's why it's a game. That's why it's a competition. So it's easy to judge, but I'm also very proud of how they are really methodical and intentional about how they get better and how they get their teams better. Think about it. Think about a team like week 1 versus like week 15. Like how much they get better. But we don't do that in our personal lives. So you can judge all day long on one bad call, but look at the whole picture. One couple weeks, couple months, couple seasons, and look at the coaches that do it well. And it's really, really incredible science and art.
You did a lot of research on this. You checked, those 50 coaches and all that stuff. So with that in mind, what you just said, I'm just thinking they have to be excellent at assimilating feedback. Okay, because if you go take that week 1 to 15, every week is feedback. Okay, and they have to adjust and pivot to that feedback to make those improvements to get somewhere other than last place, right? In that 15 weeks. And I think in a business scenario too, we have to be pulling on feedback. We have to be open to feedback first. We also have to give feedback. If we're the coach, right? The business owner, what I always find is like, employees, people in your team, they actually want feedback. They want quality feedback, right? They want recognition too, but the feedback's what they really want. Am I doing a good job? Should I do it differently? I think that's what people don't get. So is that what you found? Was that one of those elements that you saw as you did this research and started compiling this book?
Yeah, feedback is a gift. The actual format that most of the feedback is given to in the coaches is the film. It's the tape. So they see it. In the book I talk about it, but they look at player statistics of how they're doing. They look at the tape. Did they loaf? Did they miss a tackle? Did they have a holding call? They look at all that. So almost there's some self-recognition. The coaches don't even have to say something sometimes. They just need to show them the tape and then ask the question. And then, a really driven person or player in this case is going to, of course, correct himself. What the coaches do is make adjustments. I think that's chapter 4. The 4 chapters recorded in the books is building the ethos, the culture. It's building the playbook. Then it's building your play sheet, which is relevant to that game. And I can talk about that more. But then how you get better over time is adjustments. And so coaches are really good at seeing how they make adjustments over time. And there's plenty of examples of where a coach, they run a play this one way in the first week. And they say, you know what? If I put a different player in, or if I run it against a different type of offense or defense, or if I move it to the left side of the field versus the right side of the field. So they make little iterative tweaks week in and week out. And there's a lot of science and research about this and way we would do it in our professional life. There's the cognitive phase, the associative phase, and the autonomous phase. It takes time for us to get better. So in our professional and personal lives, what we don't do is we don't implement something and be perfect at it right away. We should implement it do a retrospective on how we did, or maybe have people give us feedback of how we did, ask peer feedback, and then slowly, iteratively get better and better and better and better week in and week out. And that's what the coaches do. They look at the film and they just keep doing that over the course of the season. And sometimes the feedback is throw the darn play out. It doesn't work for me. It doesn't match our team. So there's a lot of in the book that goes into how to make adjustments and how you can do it as you're applying certain skills in your personal and professional life as well.
That's awesome. So I'm kind of picking up that this book has a lot of action steps. Does it?
You know what? We made it pretty darn simple. So the irony of this is that it's a simple resource for overloaded professionals. So it's not rocket science. Really, the first thing is creating a culture. You got to know who you want to be. And I know that's really hard. You're a coach, right? You know this. But if you don't know who you want to be, you can do anything, but not everything. So I think a lot of us are overloaded because we don't know what we want to be. So that's filter one. That's a hard exercise, but it is just one.
Yep.
The second, when you do that, is the playbook. We have stuff everywhere. If I ask you, like, what was your favorite quote in a book, it's probably in a Post-it note or a browser, saved browser link, right? It's everywhere. What coaches do is they have one central document for everything. It's their playbook. And then they create that play sheet each week to help them quickly recall and apply the right thing. So the simple steps here is create a play sheet, right? Use it and review how you did it. And that's really it. So we don't go into too many. There's basically 10 full steps, but they are very, very simple. And they are tried and true steps that every football coach uses across the United States that you can use in your personal and professional life.
Well, see, I think that's the importance of it, because me as a trainer, as a coach, I've done everything. I've worked with professional athletes down to middle school kids, right? I've done all that as well, along with all my business coaching. And you're exactly right about two things. First, that really in the business standpoint, it's called ICP. Who's your ideal client profile? What is it? Like, who do you serve? You're doing 7 different things. What if you just did one of those things and you were like spectacular at it? Okay. I guarantee you, like, I'll change your business in a heartbeat. Right. So there's that, like you said, really identifying the purpose, the who you're serving, but the simplicity aspect is what it's about. When people, they turn things into this complex endeavor. And a lot of times I find, Brian, it's like they're kind of serving their own ego. It's like using the $5 words instead of my 25-cent words. You know what I mean? So like, it's like they do that, like, and they're trying to communicate to an audience that perhaps doesn't speak at that level, right? I get it, man, knowing your audience kind of thing. But I've always found the simplistic approach to training always works. It creates results very, very quickly, like you're saying. So I really like that. I like that approach.
Yeah, and the play sheet is pretty darn simple. Like, I actually went to a bunch of American Football Coaches Conference and high school conferences across the country. And I was looking for the big software development company or platform company that had like created this whiz bang tool. They all use an Excel spreadsheet. Like, it's not rocket science. It's like, what do we want to do based on the opponent we have, and get it on a sheet of paper so that, and try it, test it throughout the week in practice, and then just distill it down to that one sheet of paper and then organize it. Right? Like, and you can do that in your personal life. So one of the examples I use is that I have a play sheet. Maybe I'm working on crucial conversations with a direct report or better presentation skills. All I'm going to do is take my play sheet, juxtaposition, that's probably a $5 word. I don't mean to do that, but let
me write it down. Can you spell it?
Put it against your calendar and say, you know what? Hey, Monday morning, 8:00, I have a tough conversation with a direct report. I'm working to be a better communicator. Maybe I'm extroverted, they're introverted. So how I approach the conversation is going to be different. All I do is I have my play sheet here and I look at effective communication category. I've got a couple blurbs from one of the books I just read or podcasts I just listened to. It triggers my memory. And when I'm in that one-on-one, I'm intentionally thinking, you know what, I'm going to run this play. Later in the day, when I'm going to have that big presentation, maybe I'm trying to say less and really drive home my points, right? We all do those things in presentations. So they're just easy, quick, at a glance reminders. This is not a very complicated system. It's just, I don't think people have a framework to take all that information, that's information overload, and simplify it in a way that you can actually execute it and get better each and every day.
Yeah, I agree. I really like, again, I love this process because I'll do it when I speak. Like I don't write it. I mean, it's just bullet points. I used to do it for my first business. I'm teaching or demonstrating building water features. Well, it was just a slide roll. And like I just see the picture, then, oh, that. And I'll just talk about that. Then I go to the next one. I'm like, average 1 minute per slide. That's all we're going to do. Click. And I never had notes and I just rolling through it. So again, I broke it down to a really simple way I could communicate things, just like you're doing here. And I think it's great when you have at least a framework. Like you said, it's really critical because people don't know that. Like I had to create my own framework. And for those situations, I use that technique. Now I'll have just a few bullet points I'll hit. I'll see it. I can look at everybody. I can talk. I can walk, do the whole thing. Look at the next one, talk and walk. But, but if you're like trying to create something new every single time, I think this, to your point, that's when things get ugly. Okay. You're on the field, and whether it's football or battle, simplicity wins because you have to make instant decisions and adjustments. Okay. The enemy you don't know what the enemy or the competition is doing at the moment. So there's this instant reaction. You have to be able to fire very quickly. And if it's, again, complicated, the complication systems move slowly, so.
You make me so happy hearing this because this is what I tell people all the time. There's a reason I didn't call the book The Playbook. A lot of companies, a lot of people have a playbook. You can't bring, some of these coaches have 500 plays in their playbook. If I brought 500 plays to the sideline and then they did an audible, they brought a different, formation in on defense, and I'm like trying to flip through 50 pages to make a call in that same situation I mentioned earlier, my decision making is, I have information overload, I'm overwhelmed, it's too many cereals in the cereal aisle, and I don't know which one to pick. The play sheet really forces you to distill it down to one 11 by 8 laminated sheet of paper. Even laminated, you can't change it.
Yeah,
it's got to be there.
Right.
One of the best coaches I talked to is Lincoln Riley. He used to be at Oklahoma, now he's at University of Southern California. He forces his team to get to 28 plays. That's it. If it doesn't make that cut, and we spend all week getting it to 28, that 29th play is not going to make that much of a difference. We got to execute what we're really good at right now in these 28 plays. And if we don't do that, then shame on me, I didn't build a good game plan. So if you have the wrong game plan, that may be your issue. You know what I mean? And then but it's all about having simplicity of what you execute. And the last thing I'll say here, this process worked at every level. I was amazed because high school kids, they're talking about 16, 17-year-old kids. The coaches talked about, you got to keep it simple. That old adage. But they even go less plays, and they just hear the plays that we're going to run. They script those plays throughout, for the first 5 plays of each quarter or half, and they really make it paint by numbers. And you can do the same thing. And that's what hit me. It was a sports epiphany for me on the couch that day, is that I was over-engineering it and spending a ton of time. Like I would literally hear a podcast pull off the side of the road and Siri, remember this quote, this is professional gold. And then I would never freaking implement it. You know what I mean? So that's why I get so excited about this process. What you said, you can't bring all 500 plays to the sideline. You'd overwhelm yourself.
Yeah, so many times, and the other point you said near the beginning too was, I have a best-selling book. I give it to people and they read it, and then they're done and they read another book, and I'll come back a month later or whatever and ask how things are going, and I'm like, well, did you do anything that I put in the book? Well, no, I'm thinking about it. I go, dude, that's not what it's for. Okay. If you read it, put it back on the shelf. All you've done is burn time.
And money.
Okay. Yeah. There's no practical application here, so it's always about that, that imperfect action and taking this and the repetition. Like you said, as we get longer in our careers, if you will, I've been 35 years now running businesses, right? Good and bad and everything else. Well, I have a little more wisdom, right? I can boil, and I understand the importance of boiling things down to simple. I also have 6 children. Okay. You got to keep things simple. Okay. And I'm like, my wife and I will have that battle once in a while. I'm like, this really isn't simple. There's too many steps in here for me and the children. I'm like, can we just go a couple of things? That's my thing. I really like being efficient, so it's kind of a game we play. But you know what I mean? But once you get it, they start to learn this way, and just watch for that feedback on how quickly people are able to grasp the concept and apply it. Like, that's the feedback I want to see. Did it take 3 days, 7 days, 12 days? Like, when are they like humming without me? Because our goal is to systemize a business, get it running, being self-managed so the owner can step away. Well, guess what you need? A play sheet of only so many plays to give these people, right? Because I'm telling you, man, it's like it ain't never going to happen if you can't break it down into those simplistic moves there.
One of the areas I said parenting earlier, that's become one of the most popular areas for the play sheet. I mean, I'm a parent of a 6 and an 8-year-old. I feel like I'm losing every day, right? Like I've listened to a bunch of parenting webinars and stuff. And in the moment, like I'm coming home from work, I'm exhausted. I got the list of things I'm wanting to do. And my 8-year-old is throwing a little bit of a tantrum about being on screens or what he's eating or not wanting to eat. And I'm just reacting. But I literally created a parenting play sheet. I have them laminated and printed all over the house. And there are certain triggers of saying, hey, based on how he or she is behaving, here's the play I should run. And so I'm not reacting in the moment anymore. I'm actually applying it. Guess what? One of those plays works. And I'm like, circle that play. I'm going to run it again. And by week 6, 7, or 8, right, it's getting better. And that's why, once again, this is not an in-depth. You read this book, it's kind of an hourglass read. It's less than 2 hours, the play sheet. It's that simple. Just get it all organized into one place. Like, that's your book. There's probably like 10 great points out of your book. There's probably more. I don't mean that in any way. There's probably a lot of great books.
No, it's probably simple.
It's simple, right? You really, great. Grab those, put them in your playbook, organize them. Based on the category, organize them. But guess what? Not all of those plays are going to be relevant right now in my life. So maybe some of the books that I read about parenting when the kid was 3 versus when the kid's 10 versus when the kid's 18 is going to be different. That play doesn't change. My situation and the scenario, the opponent changed. So the playbook is really important. I tell this story from Tony Elliott. He was a coach of Virginia. He was at Clemson at the time. He was the offensive coordinator at Clemson. Virginia Tech would play them every year in the ACC. Virginia Tech would run this little play every time it worked against everybody in the ACC. He's like, I love this play. So we brought it. He tried to run it every year at Clemson. It never worked. Didn't have the right personnel. Didn't have the right situation. Fast forward 3 years later, he's in the college football playoffs at Clemson against Ohio State. He's watching the tape on Ohio State. He's like, the play's going to work. He actually says it in the quote. He broke the piggy bank, took the play out, ran it for the first time with that team for the 5 days prior to the game, and it was working. It ended up being the game-winning touchdown from Trevor Lawrence to Travis Etienne, took him to the college football championship. So sometimes you organize the play, and as you assess your next 3, 6, 9 months or whatever's in front of you, different plays are relevant. So if you haven't organized it, you're quickly able to grab it from your playbook, put it on your play sheet, and then run it in that next play.
Yeah, that's awesome. But I have one thing. We got to jump back 1 second. I got one question. When you come home and the 8-year-old's doing his thing, do you make him get the play sheet? Go get my play sheet. Because that could be the trigger to stop all bad behavior. Okay.
I have to get this out. You know something? You're right. I'm going to try that, Richard.
Remember what our dads did? Get my belt. Get my belt. Okay, where's my belt? Just get the play sheet. I'm going to use it. It's going to be gold. Now, again, I've got 6 kids who are, pretty much all adults, but I had a short window of children having. I have a 22, 19s, 2 18s, and a 17. Okay, so now go back to
how do you have time to do these podcasts, man?
That's right. I do these to relax. That's why I do these to relax. Okay. No, they're all like self-sustaining, earning. One's in the Marine Corps, one of the ones moved, and but when you do it right, just so talk about play sheets and doing things right. So I'll give one of my 19-year-olds. We're staying at the kitchen counter one night. He goes, Dad, I'm gonna move out. I go, oh, cool. His name's like, okay. When are you gonna do that? And he goes, in the morning. I went, oh, super cool. Came up with his 2 bags. All right, see ya. And he left and he moved about 40 weeks, work and got a job. I'm like, and he pops in every couple of weeks. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's how we know we did it right. Like, man, the kid didn't need anything, man. He's not asking for a loan. He's not coming back for anything. I'm just, you know what I mean? And I'm only tossing it out to because when you talk about these play sheets and these things, when you get people trained, okay, and you're able to, what you're doing in a family setting is you're learning how to react properly, right? And sometimes it's even proactive because you've seen this play before.
Yep.
Right? That's the whole thing. It's like the guy watching the Clemson guy watching the like, oh,
I've seen.
Yeah, I did this 3 years ago. I can do it now. I did it when you were 7. You're 11 now, and you're doing the same garbage again. I know exactly how to handle this, so you can take it. I love it. It's very cool.
But we don't have that mechanism to recall that, right? Or we forget it. And today, the problem statement of the book is information overload. So I studied a bunch of experts on information overload, which was information overload in general, just studying it. There's so much content on there today, but I mean, we have too much information. There's too many sources of information. We have digital bombardment of that information. I probably got 15 Teams and Slack messages since I've been on this podcast, right? So it's just overwhelming for us. And so for us, the cognitive load hits. So even if we had those things in our brain, like we don't have a mechanism to recall it. So you got to organize it, got to have the framework to quickly recall it so you can apply it and get better at it. And that's been the game changer for me. And I hope, it can be something that can just help people organize how they do it for their own lives.
Yeah, I think the organizational part is kind of a challenge for a lot of people. Some people have that kind of natural gift. I do not. I don't have that gift, any sort of that kind of gift. I just hire an office manager. Okay. I hand her, back in the day, my message on a napkin, say, email this, because I don't do email. So it's like I had a lot of workarounds, of actually doing stuff. It's a little different now, but it was interesting how I created, as I was growing a business, doing a lot of the work and stuff like that, I would create these little systems that may have seemed odd to some people, but they worked in that environment, right? So sometimes you're very, you correct me if I'm wrong, or, maybe enhance this, that environmental play sheet. That's kind of what we're talking about, right? Like I have this zone I spend 8 hours a day in. I have a zone I spend, 12 hours a day in, and whatever that is. And we have these different sheets for those different times. Is that kind of how you got to format this stuff?
Yeah. So people have done it different ways. Like I met with a chief marketing officer of a very large retail food chain recently, and he read the book, brought it to me. And I was like, man, you did this better than me. He had kind of the professional development plays that he was trying to get better at on one side of the play sheet. On the right-hand side, which a lot of coaches do that too, they have their key metrics. So he had his key scorecard or key metrics on the right-hand side. In the football analogy of that, some of the coaches are like, these are my key matchups. I really got to, I got to really go after these because I have an advantage if I run this running back versus this right end, right? So he had his scorecard on there. On the other side, it's kind of interesting. He had the names of all his direct reports with a little bit of a blurb. That he had so he could remember them and knew people that were on his team so he could be personable with them. Coaches do something similar. Sometimes they write the number of timeouts or the names of the refs so they could butter them up so they make the right calls. And then on the far right-hand side, he had some of his key messages from his strategy because he was trying to reinforce the same message in all his meetings. So, the other thing is you can customize it. I wouldn't overdo it. The whole concept for me, though, is pick 3 to 5 categories of something you're trying to get better at. Pick 3 to 5 plays that you want to work on in that category and just master those.
Yeah.
And make it relevant to what's coming up. So the game plan in the book, we talk about, you have to have your game plan, right? So that shifts. So I tell you how to create cadences on a monthly or quarterly basis, kind of a retrospective, inspect and adapt type of process. And the reason that's important is maybe you're a new manager. Maybe you just went through a reorg. Maybe you just got divorced. Maybe you have a new child. Like whatever it is, that situation is different. So based on that situation, what are the 3 to 5 plays, 3 to 5 categories? What are the 3 to 5 plays? And run those until they're really, really good. And then you can go add new plays, more plays, etc. But you got to keep it simple. So I've seen both sides. I've seen an executive that's, 20, 30 years in their career really take it and make it this masterpiece. And I'm really good with it just being 3 to 5 categories and 3 to 5 plays. Very simple, just to help me get better at 2 things that I'm working.
Right. Right. Yeah. I found that too, like in boxing. Same thing, man. It's simple. It's difficult, but there's just simple little things that I would train boxers to. My son, everyone else, like that's the same principle, right? There's basics. My book, For Escaping the Owner Prison, it's fundamental things that nobody does. It's like these everyone would assume all these things get done on the regular. No one does them. So you got to reel them back in. It's like the free throw, right? You got to stand at the line and another one and keep your elbow in and whatever you got to do. But I started noticing that again when I was training, especially in athletics, that ability to get that repetition and understand the simplicity of it and get it perfected enhanced anything else they would have to do. It's foundation. It's just, that's what it is. And it crosses all learning aspects.
In the 4th chapter of the book, when I talked about adjustments, we talk about 2 types of adjustments, right? You have on cadence adjustments and you have situational adjustments, right? But the on cadence is really where the magic happens, because that's another thing people don't do. They don't have that built-in routine to reflect on how they're performing. And the coaches just have that built into their calendar. If you have to football coach where he's going to be in September on a Tuesday at 2:00, they literally know how every hour is built out. It's just they're creatures of habit. We don't have that. So for me, and what I teach in the book is that do a quarterly cadence. On a quarterly basis, review, hey, how did I run those plays? How can I get better at those plays? Do I have new things coming in the next 30, 60, 90 days and I want to add new plays? So you've got to have that inspect and adapt type of scenario built into your calendar, block it on your calendar, make a dedicated time, or you'll never actually incrementally get better.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. We call them anchor activities, right? These are things that we have to do on a consistent, non-negotiable times. I do with my clients. When they meet with me once a week, that's a anchor activity that's non-negotiable. You don't get to reschedule. Okay, that doesn't happen, right? And then when I assign things, so my goal when we build it out, even with people, is no unaccounted for time. So if you take a work period, 4 hours, 8 hours, whatever that might be, there's no catch up time. There's no, figure stuff out. Like, no, everything is accounted for, so everyone knows, because the average employee wastes 2 hours a day. That's the research. That's the average, right? So because it's not accounted for. Whether it's screen time or whatever, but they haven't built it out that way. And it's not this micromanagement thing. It's just, we have direction. The same thing the coach is doing for the team. Tuesday, we're going to do this. We're going to have doubles. We're going to have this and this. My son, before we went in the Marine Corps, before he went in, we're doing 3 a days for 7 months straight. Like, we were in the gym at 6 a.m. doing conditioning. Had a half-hour break. He ran 6 to 10 hills. Had a 5-hour break back in the pool. Now we're in the pool, so we built that cadence, like you said, and he just crushed it. I did that so boot camp would be recovery, because it was not going to be and he killed it, did awesome, right? So we just above and beyond. But again, that routine, that cadence, like you're talking about, is really critical. I do it with my morning rituals and my workouts and everything else. And if you can build it into your play sheet like that, I think everyone should get in that kind of cadence in their life and at work. If they could do both, that's powerful stuff.
Yeah, because after 3 months, the plays that I had, I hope I got better at some of them. If I didn't, at least I have an accountability built into my process that says, hey, you know what? I really didn't do this thing well. I maybe didn't have enough situations or at bats to do it. I need to be more intentional the next couple of months. So it's a huge thing. And thank you for your service. I live here in Military City, USA in San Antonio. So the military is a big part of our culture and city down here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was also thinking when you log that stuff, now you have proof of your failure. There, see, you want to see how bad I have it in writing how bad I did. Yeah. It's very good. Everyone wants to talk about the good stuff. Half my book is failure. Okay, so I get to document it. I like it. You need it.
The coaches do that. They have like score sheets for their players after they watch the film, and they rate them. And all it is like, it's then it kind of is a challenge. They're like, man, I want to get better. I want to have a personal record, right? I want my PR. I want my run time to go up. I want the amount I squat to go up. I want more tackles. I want less penalties. They build those kind of competitions in. So I think everybody finds that own way, but that's where the repeatable process Some of the stories are a lot more fun to read than what I'm saying here when they hear from the
Right.
coaches. Take a read for
Yeah,
it.
but you can't improve something you don't measure. You have to measure this stuff. We all have to do it. In podcasting, right? I do a lot of podcasts. I listen to anyone I guest on. I've been on hundreds of podcasts as a guest. I've listened to them all. My wife gives me crap about that. You listen to yourself again? I go, it's a different show because I improve, like one time I'm like, well, maybe I shouldn't throw my brother into the bus like that. Maybe he might hear this someday. I better not. I'm not going to do that anymore. Right. So you start to learn these things, but really, it really is just like watching game tape. It's the same. That's what I do. I mean, it's like I have to hear it. I'll go back and listen to it. I'm like, okay, I can get better at this. I can get better at that. Because I have a very free flowing conversational style. We don't plan anything, right? It's you and I just having a conversation. Luckily, you're really good at this, so I can look even better. But normally, sometimes I got to be, doing all the work. You never know, right? You never know who you're going to get. So, but again, I do the same thing. I'm training at this all. Everyone is practice to me, every single thing. So,
Richard, I wasn't looking to write a book either. I was just looking to get better. And then I wrote the book, and then I started doing, little TV spots. I started doing podcasts. And you said something earlier. You said, hey, if this ends early, you were a bad guest. My first podcast, I made it like 10 minutes. So what I do, I built a play sheet for the play sheet so that I have all my key points on here. I don't have to memorize it, but I quickly, I haven't done one of these in a week or 5 days or 10 days or whatever. I can glance at it and be like, that's the key point. Want to drive it home. So that's just getting better.
And it is because here's a little inside podcasting for everyone. Like you'll tell your story. Now you've been on 3, now you've been on 5, now you've been on 9 podcasts. All of a sudden you're on number 163. Okay. And like, really, I've said this 162 times. Do I really have to do this again? Like, and you want to start like shaking it up? Big mistake. Because that's 163 different audiences who have never heard you. And it's forever. It's the message. I mean, you can say a different joke, but I mean, the message, your play sheet.
Yeah.
You got to stick to it.
Yeah.
Like you have to. Like otherwise you have a confused message. People don't get it. One guy got a good message, next one didn't because you thought, you're tired of saying the same thing 5 times. Like you get it. Like people don't really get that part, but I've had to force myself to just do it again, man. Tell the story again. Tell the story again. You got to keep doing it because you have new ears.
Yeah.
Right.
It's great advice.
Yeah,
that's great advice. And you said something a minute ago that sparked. So I said the book is 4 chapters. It's ethos, playbook, play sheet, adjustments. Let me go backwards for a second to ethos. All these coaches have like their culture or something they can really rally people around. The Detroit Lions coach, Dan Campbell, has grit. Here in San Antonio, we have Jeff Traylor. He's amazing. He has this triangle of toughness. I've heard all these stories. These coaches create a culture, but in that culture, they have goals and objectives too. So they do say what their goals and objectives are for the season, and everything ladders to it. So the reason I was going to write a book about the play sheet, but every single coach, I wasn't looking for this, all told me about, and I didn't. Ethos is from Aristotle. I think most of the coaches knew what ethos was from, but they all had it indoctrinated in their lingo. But they all did it. And so it was just imperative to have, if every coach is doing this, have it in the book. So back to your point, I think it's important. The first thing is, who are you and who you want to be? Because we can waste a lot of time trying to be really, really good at too many things. And so if you say who you want to be, and then you say, here are a few measurable objectives or key results, if you want to go down that framework, there's many frameworks to do that. Just jot them down. And that'll filter out a ton of noise. So maybe I won't listen to that podcast, read that book, or do that webinar. I'm going to get laser focused on being who I actually can be great at versus trying to be a great boxer and a great football player. Probably can't be both,
right? Yeah, I think people, any team, okay, has to have something to rally around. Like you said, whether that's the ethos, whatever that is, use this a lot, shared suffering. Okay, that's the number one bond builder. So when you're a team, like a football, I mean, you're punishing yourself, you're pushing yourself, right? You're doing really hard things. You're trying to get that tiny little improvement. What a lot of people don't get on those high performance levels It's like they're looking for the tiniest improvement, because that can be the difference between a win and a loss. I mean, almost imperceptible to the normal eye, but like to get just that hundredth of a second off the block, or crossing, whatever that is, whatever we could do. I developed a lot of that kind of stuff to take them to that next level, and they appreciate that, right? Because they understand that. And again, that's why they still have coaches and everything else at those high levels, because you don't do this on your own. Just like this play sheet it's your coach. If you think about it personally, right? That's like, it got mailed in, here's the place. You get this, and like you're actually coaching yourself, which isn't always a great thing to do, right? But if you have a format and this stuff to follow, you have this game plan, right? There is structure. Structure brings success. Yep. Yeah, it's a good thing.
Preparation prevents poor performance. I mean, that really is what it boils down to. You bring goosebumps to me because, here in South Texas, there's a lot of football. I'm originally from South Florida as well, but I went to a high school in kind of the middle of nowhere here in South Texas. But the coach used the 212 degrees, right? It's what takes water to steam. Once again, old adage, us adults have heard that 1,000 times. But to these 16-year-old kids, they're like, what do you mean, coach? That's when water boils. It can power a locomotive, right? Go from water to steam, power the train. And so he had stickers. He had the locker room. Everything was 212, 212, 212 degrees, right? And later that season, he had indoctrinated just that extra degree of effort is really going to make a difference. And later that season, the quarterback was dropping back and snap got away from him and he fumbled it. And the defensive end picked up the ball and starts running and is going to score a touchdown. And one of the wide receivers that was already downfield running his route had that indoctrinated in him. And he sprinted his tail off and ran and caught the defensive end that was about to score a touchdown and stripped the ball before the defensive player scored a defensive touchdown, and it caused a touchback that got the ball back. It ended up saving the game. They won the game. They went on to win the district. And that one little thing, and the crowd on the sideline didn't know the 212, but the team was chanting 212, 212, 212. And for the rest of the season, really for the next couple seasons, for every kid in that locker room, he had won them. He had gotten them to that point of who they were going to be, the style that they were going to run, the culture that they were going to manifest. And so it's those were some of the really fun things to see. I just went to go watch a high school football game, and it turned out to be this thing that gives me goosebumps every time.
Yeah, man, it's those are legend makers. You know what I mean? It's funny that at the high school, well, I went to like 3, but my second high school was where my father had graduated. He was the first graduating class from there. And the football coach, this guy named Dick Adams, big dude, but he just was like the unbelievably great coach. So now I'm there, right? Like whatever it is, 25 years later, 30, and he's still there. And now they've named the field after him. One of those kind of guys. These guys were just all the coaches. Those are the only guys I remember. I wasn't even on their stuff. I remember Batista, the wrestling coach. I know the football coach, but same thing. These guys had built this culture. My uncle was the varsity quarterback. Yeah, and I think for state, they went to state, right? So this is 60. Maybe he was there in like 63, something like that. 62. He went to Vietnam after that, but. So they got the big state championship, and all the half the team went out and partied the night before, all liquored up, right? And he was also a wrestler, had like the fastest mat pin time for heavyweights, held for like 35 years or something, and stuff. And he's like, these guys all showed up all liquored up and drunk, and we lost the whole thing because of that. You know what I mean? Well, they all paid, but there's Adams. This guy like lived through that, but then brought us back to championships, So all the coaches, they had that, right? And you had this coach, like he was the enigma. Like all this, like you knew, even if you didn't know him, you knew him. That's what I'm talking about, the power of a coach. Like you'd be at the school, you wouldn't even know what he looks like. Okay, you may not see him, but like the name is like, yeah, it's stuff like that. It's like the 212 guy.
And a lot of these coaches don't use, you talked about, they don't use crazy, over sophisticated, complex frameworks and systems, but it works. And some of them have been winning for 20, 30, 40 years, coach generations of kids. And they have the coach, one coach I interviewed, he's at St. Thomas Aquinas in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. He's won 9 out of his first 11 state championships in Florida. This guy, He probably should be CEO of like one of the biggest companies in the country. His name's Coach Roger Harriet. He's got like 13 guys in the NFL in his first 10 years at this high school. Like, he's doing something right. Why wouldn't you learn from it? And so once again, I'm just trying to share what I learned from these coaches because they've been helping me every single day.
Yeah, it's here's what I like. So I love this right now. Let me tell you from a sports standpoint. Okay. I don't watch any. Okay. I don't talk about it. Okay. I'll talk about coaching. I'll talk about training. I would get people fit for football, any sport. I'll get you fit, but we'll never talk about the sport. Okay. Here's my other client. I'm just being a kind of a clown right now, but I've also have this thing. I've never in my life, Brian, worn a professional sports apparel of any kind. 59 years. I know you're dying, but I never have done it. I make fun of people. Okay. Like I go to church. We're Wisconsin. So you know what everyone's wearing. Yeah. Green Bay, everything, right? Yeah. And I just go up to these guys, and I'm head of the men's ministry and stuff like that, right? So I kind of got this thing about men and warriors and stuff. And I go up and go, dude, why you got another man's name on your back? I said, I'm starting to be concerned. You're walking around with that. Like, are you friends? Do you know him? I get the whole thing, but it's just my only way to get a little jab in. But I love the whole, I was a cross country runner, real popular, right? I'm a boxer. I'm a black belt. It tend to be a lot of individual sports. I do, but I get the whole but I'm a Marine and I can work with a team. I built teams. I train cross country teams. I've done all this kind of stuff and built that, that cohesiveness among a team for that stuff. It's just, I love it because it's like that. It's not this or that. There's so much spillover on that. For me, Brian, there's no substitution for doing sport. I love to do sport.
Yeah.
I don't like to watch sport. That's basically what I'm saying, I think. But that doing it, like everyone has to do something. I don't care if it's in 3rd grade, 11th grade, whatever it is. We homeschooled our kids. So we created the homeschool cross country team. Had 80 kids on that sucker.
That was your 0-day basic training PT right there.
Heck yeah, baby. Then I'm training the poolies who are going in the Marine Corps. I'm showing up and training all them, like, oh, it's Tuesday, Thursday. I'm going to go train them. And I thrash them for an hour, so I love it. So we all get this stuff, right? There's all these different things you can pull from. But I think sports is, I'm thrilled you wrote the book. I think it's awesome. Again, I haven't read it, but like everything you've explained is such a great practical application of the concepts of the sport, right? Like people need to understand that this is that feedback loop we talked about. Like you can pull stuff from anything. You can go to a conference and like it might kind of not be great, but if you're the right person, you're pulling something from that. Right? You're going to get the one nugget. I'm sure you didn't like have 3 books of every time you talk to a coach, but if you took away 2 concepts, 2 things, man, that's a lot, right? That you can apply.
I just loved, there's two things I'll kind of close on that. Like whether you're a sports fan or not, here's the litmus test, right? Of whether or not if you think this framework works. If you don't watch football, that's fine, but just go watch highlights. See how many times in a football game you see one of these on the sideline. That'll tell you that it's statistically significant that it works. So that's the litmus test of how I think this is a tried and true practice that I think can work for you. That's probably the biggest thing there.
Yeah, I love it. So how can people get the book, connect with you, follow you? I'm sure you're doing a lot of stuff. So let's share that with everybody.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to do that, Richard. Pretty easy. I'm on every digital retail bookseller there is out there. Obviously, Amazon's the big one. We were Amazon bestseller. We've been at 5 stars. I think we just dropped down. It was killing me that somebody gave me a mediocre review versus a 5-star review, but
you need those.
I need
Brian,
those.
I'm telling you,
it was
because
good.
That's legit. I had a guy do that at 1 star. Some hater down the street who knew me, and he just wouldn't put his name, put a number. Good. Yeah. I'm like, good, because everybody will know.
You're right. Okay. And now it'll get better. It'll get better because of it.
That's right.
And then, myplaysheet.com. We have a website. You can get the book. You can also set up consultations. I'm doing a lot of 1-hour webinars, a lot of colleges and universities this time of year have been pretty popular. I do 1-hour webinars. I do longer ones. We do executive coaching. So you can sign up for a free consultation on the website as well at myplaysheet.com. And the book, once again, is called The Playsheet, a simple resource for overloaded professionals. And Richard, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, this has been awesome. It really has. A lot of great takeaways on this, Brian. Appreciate it, man. You're a pro. I'm sure you listen to your own podcasts. Okay, it's good. So always do that. Get the reviews; they're awesome. And again, we'll keep in touch, of course. But I always like to see the next thing. So I'm going to ask as my final question: what's the next thing?
We are going to do something. I have so much content from these coaches, and so instead of Friday Night Lights, we're calling this thing Friday Night Insights. So we're going to just take small blurbs of some of the great concepts from the coaches and build off the play sheet. So that should be coming over the summer. And then also the book isn't on audiobook yet, so it's something I'm working on. So probably next 30, 60 days, it'll be on audio as well.
Love it. Love it. So this is a business tip. Repurpose your content. Repurposing is the key to success. I'm telling you, man, you can get some mileage out of one book. You can get endless mileage beyond the book and all the stuff, all the research. And you did a ton of research. So you got to have stacks of stuff. So I love it. Keep doing that because, man, there's, like you said, it has to be a short book. Got to get that. You had to cut out a lot of stuff, like 28 plays, not 29, right? But
you got it.
Doesn't mean they're in the garbage. They're just on the side for now. They'll come up when it's time, right? So same thing with the repurposing. So awesome stuff, Brian. Again, Brian Hurtak, you're the best, man. I appreciate you. And for everybody else, we'll see you on the next STS podcast.
And don't forget, revenue feeds the ego, profit feeds the family. So if you want to see how I can show you at least $100,000 in hidden annual profits in less than 3 minutes, and not only show you where, but how to create that 100K in 6 months or less without additional advertising or marketing spend, guaranteed, just go to sharpenthespearcoaching.com. See how truly simple it is. That's sharpenthespearcoaching.com. Do it now.